Hi guys, welcome. Today we're going to be messing with the ShineMate some more, and we're just going to be using it. And all I have is this test hood that really needs to be polished. So we're just going to mess around with it some more. We're going to draw a conclusion on whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense for you to buy one, and talk about it versus the Mirka and some of the other options that exist out there. So this is the ShineMate EB212. They do make an EB213, although it's not available in the States yet. This is a 3-inch, 12mm dual action polisher. It comes with one battery pack, a charger, and a case when you buy it, as well as a couple polishing pads. It's very similar to the Mirka AROB. It's very quiet, it's very smooth. It's not quite as smooth as the Mirka, but I think that it's one of those things that if you have never used the Mirka, you won't really know what you're missing. Let's just say that. So here I've got a test hood. It's from a Hyundai Elantra. It's black and it's pretty beat, but we want to use this to test some like hot coat products, Quiver hot coat, as well as maybe some other wet coat sealant style stuff. Also going to use it to test out the Next LED coating light on camera. So I just need to there's some sealant stuff that's on it right now. I just need to get all of that off. And I thought it'd be a good chance to kind of finish up everything with the ShineMate, make sure that everybody kind of understands my feelings. It is being sold, like a dozen people have reached out to me. There is an order to that, but it sounds like it's going to go to Becca Green. So power button turns it on. There are LEDs here and here. They are not the same color of green, just some random stuff like that. There is plus and minus, so it has 5 speeds. So I'm on the lowest one right now. Up 1, up 2, lights up the middle one. Up 1, up 2, lights up the last one. That is the highest speed. The speed range of this is the same as the Mirka. As you can tell, it is nice and quiet. Using a Meguiar's microfiber pad right now. Something a little bit more on the aggressive side. And this is Nasiol ClearRub 305. This is not a polish or compound test, it's more about the machine. So some things that I like about this, obviously it's quiet, it's inexpensive, it works very well, especially for the cost. Normally, if you're a detailer, you're not going to use a 3-inch very often, right? You're going to use a 5-inch for the most part because you want to be as efficient as possible. You're going to use a 3-inch on panels where it makes sense, and then you're going to maybe use a 1-inch for some edge work and some other stuff. So, the Mirka being an almost $800 3-inch, oh, that's what happens when it goes dead. So the Mirka being an almost $800 3-inch polisher might not make sense for somebody who's only using it occasionally, right? This thing honestly works really well. Things that I like about it, it has a trigger lock. I never really cared about the Mirka not having a trigger lock, but it is nice that it has one. You can tap, tap, it's now locked. And what I found is that I can kind of use it like a palm sander and just one-hand it around the panel, which is kind of nice. You've got good control. You can, wobble back and forth. You can get edges, etc. The sound of it isn't bad. It's quiet, it's pleasant. It sounds pretty similar to the Mirka. The back is nice and simple. Power on, up, down, very easy to use. Give you the things that I don't like about it, and this is coming from somebody who's used the Mirka now for 2 years. Number one, the trigger being as large as it is, I find that I very easily bump it. So I'll be putting some polish on here and I'll have it like sitting upside down and I'll tap it with my hand accidentally or something along those lines, and then it'll turn on and spin. And I've done that half a dozen times since I've had it. I'm sure it's something that I'll get used to. You know, when I had the Rupes HLR 75, I got used to it on that as well. You just turn it off every time before you add polish. You could do that too. Just tap the button, put your polish on. Now I can press this all day. It's not going to spin or do anything like that. But you know, coming off of the Mirka and going to this, the Mirka had a much smaller trigger and it was harder to press. So because of that, this being so easy to press, I just find that I accidentally tap it a lot more often. Second thing, it gets warm in this section here. I'm not saying that that's really a bad thing, but it's just something that we don't really experience with the Mirka. It does have some warmth in this area right here. It's not unpleasant, it's not unusable, but it is something that is different. This does not have an app or any sort of way to see battery health or anything like that. It's not necessary, but on the Mirka, it is nice that it has it. I can connect to the app. It'll tell me how many charge cycles a battery has. It'll tell me the overall battery health compared to new. That is really, really nice, but again, completely unnecessary. It does have these vents at the top, and I find that I'm blocking them pretty much constantly when I'm holding it. Whether I'm holding it this way, I'm holding it this way, I'm using it one-handed, I'm blocking these vents almost continuously. So based on that, and the fact that most people are going to put their hand on top of it, you know, maybe they hold like this, maybe they have smaller hands than I do, you know, but I don't think that my hands are that big. But anyway, I don't know. But I find that I'm blocking the vents all the time. So then it's like, okay, well, are these vents necessary? What is the usefulness of the vent if I'm blocking it, you know, etc. And looking at the actual like slots that are here in the vents, the amount of cooling that could actually go through the small holes, because they're like diagonally, these vents could be a lot smaller than they actually are. So the battery doesn't last as long on this. It just doesn't. So, you know, I've run this until it's gone dead. I've run the Mirka until it's gone dead multiple times. I'm used to the battery life on both of them. This battery, even though it's a 10.8 volt, 2.5 amp hour battery, which is the same as the Mirka. They're both 10.8 volt, they're both 2.5 amp hour. This battery does not last as long. So either they're under the capacity, Mirka is over the capacity, or the tool is physically using more electricity and more power than the Mirka is for the amount of time that we're running it. Now they are running the same speeds. I'm using it in the same way that I use the Mirka. This starts at 4,000 RPM, the Mirka starts at 4,000 RPM. They are very, very similar tools. You know, it's just one of those things. This, when you let off the trigger, spins out. So when we let go of it, it kind of continues to spin and then slows down. The Mirka, when you let off the trigger, immediately stops. I like that because I can immediately pick it up off the panel and not worry about spraying stuff all over the place. It would be kind of nice if this did that. It doesn't, it's fine, you know, whatever. Like these are very, very nitpicky things. I'm recognizing this. I truly believe that if you do not have a Mirka and you are looking for a good 3-inch, I would buy this over the HLR 75. I would buy it over any corded 3-inch that I've ever used. I would buy it over just about anything besides the Mirka. But the Mirka is an order of magnitude more expensive. It's double the price, or almost double the price. For the price of the Mirka, you could get the 3-inch DA and the 3-inch rotary and actually have two machines, a DA and a rotary. If you are interested in the Mirka and you decide that you're going to want the rotary at some point in the future, which is where I'm at right now, or the way to do it, you would buy the Mirka rotary kit first, and then you would buy the Mirka DA as a tool only second. And I believe that you would get some of these small batteries too, the 2.5 amp hour batteries, or the 2.5 amp hour Mirka batteries, I mean, because that is going to be, well, I like the 2.5s for just, you know, one-handed operation, doing small areas, not worrying about adjacent panels, stuff like that. But you cannot buy the rotary as a tool only. And I wish that you could, I really do, because right now I have the Mirka DA 3-inch and I want the rotary, and I already have 3 batteries and a charger. I just need the tool only, and you can't buy just the tool only. So what I'm actually probably going to end up doing is buying the rotary as a kit with 2 battery packs and a charger, and then selling the 2 battery packs and the charger. You know, like I said, the Mirka's $800. You can get them on sale occasionally. Obsessed Garage does a sale every year for Black Friday. Clean Garage does sales occasionally on it as well. Beaver Industrial Supply tends to give discounts if you give them a call. That's where mine originally came from, was Beaver Industrial. They had it in the United States before anybody else did. That includes OG and Clean Garage. Matt at OG is the one that really made the tool popular, and now, you know, a dozen different places carry it, of course. I think that this is a great tool for somebody who wants a 3-inch to use in their garage, maybe somebody who details on the side, maybe somebody who's, you know, if I was using it all day, every day, like if I was regularly using a 3-inch because that was part of my job, I would honestly probably spend the extra money for the Mirka. I really would. It's very similar to like my Milwaukee tools versus a set of Ryobi tools. When I bought my Milwaukees, I was using them professionally all day, every day. And, you know, I wanted to buy the best tools that I can because a warranty is great, but what's even better than having a warranty is never having to use it. And with my Milwaukee tools, I've never used a warranty. I've also never used a Mirka warranty, and I don't know of anybody who has. So, you know, based on that, I can't tell you if the Mirka warranty is good or not good. I can tell you it's probably the best polisher that I've ever used in my entire life, and I've used dozens, which includes, you know, the 20 plus that I've owned, as well as everything that everybody's brought to SEMA and that I was able to get my hands on, you know, because obviously I can't buy every single polisher that exists out there. I think that ShineMate would do really well if they offered a kit that came with like a charger, 2 battery packs, the rotary and the DA. I think that they could probably do it around $500-600 bucks. It would be less than one of the Mirkas, and I think that it would be a really, really good option for somebody. As it stands right now, the kit for this comes with a single battery and a charger. You can buy additional batteries, and the batteries are actually available. The tool isn't really right now. They were available on Carzilla for a short time. They sold out of them almost immediately. I'll send a message to Chris and try to find out when they're going to come back and add it to the description here. But Parks, which is the United States distributor for ShineMate, still doesn't have them in stock and hasn't yet. So I don't really know what's going on. The UK and Australia both had it long before we did. I will say that there are other, you know, quote unquote Mirka clones or similar devices to this, devices that are look and shape and feel like the Mirka. None of them are available in the United States currently. So there are at least 2 others that I'm aware of besides this ShineMate. And maybe at some point I will get my hands on one. There's one, a friend of mine in Los Angeles has one. I might reach out to him and see if I could borrow it for testing and just kind of show how it is, how it's different, how it's the same, and you know, just test it out. But for right now in the United States, as far as 3-inchers are concerned, if you want a cordless machine, there's really the Flex PXE80, the Rupes HLR75, this ShineMate, and the Mirka. And those are really like the only 4 machines that I would honestly consider. In my opinion, I had a Flex. I did videos on the Flex. I talked about the Flex a lot. The Flex was not a great 1-inch and not a great 3-inch. It didn't really have enough power to be a good 3-inch. It was easy to stall. And then as far as the 1-inch is concerned, the head was so big that it really wasn't a very usable 1-inch. The Rupes HLR75 is a nice machine, but it's about the same money as this, and I would buy this over it. I just would. I realize that Rupes has been around for a long time. I realize that they have quality and experience behind them. But the user experience of this machine compared to the HLR75 is night and day. And I owned an HLR75. I bought one when they were first released, as soon as I could possibly get one. I had it for about a year and I sold it. I also bought one for my dad. My dad still has it, so I have the opportunity to revisit it from time to time there. The ShineMate EB212 is, like I said, right around the same price. It's quieter. It's easier to use. It doesn't have that paddle on the back. It's just overall a nicer experience. I don't really know how to describe it. It's smoother, it's quieter, and it's a nicer experience than using the Rupes. On, you know, the Mirka, like I said, the Mirka is very similar to this. It has a no trigger lock, different trigger. That triggers variable speed on the Mirka. The machine is overall a little bit less vibration. It's right around the same sound pitch. Does have a couple more features. Maybe those features are necessary or unnecessary, but it is, you know, obviously a more expensive machine. I do feel like with power tools, it's one of those things where you really do get what you pay for. But I also feel like this is built fairly well for a, you know, a Chinese-made tool that is the first iteration of this product from ShineMate. And I realize that ShineMate's been around for a long time, and ShineMate has created a lot of tools. I've used their other polishers before. I owned an EX620. I've used the EB210. You know, they had almost everything that they make at SEMA, and I was able to touch and feel a lot of them. I really do like the rotary. I think it's a pretty cool machine. It's something that I'm interested in owning, and I will buy it and test it, but I'm also going to buy the Mirka, and I'm going to compare those two. So that's really all that I have for today. If you're interested in buying one of these, I'll put a link down below to Carzilla. They're currently out of stock. If you use that link, it gives me a small kickback, and I really do appreciate that. Parks Car Care will at some point have them in the United States. They told me that, but you know, they told me they would have them in May. It's now June, and they haven't had them yet. So I don't know what's going on. I haven't really gotten a lot of information back from them. I asked them to keep me in the loop, but I mean, who am I, right? Like, I'm just a random dude. So, you know, it's fine that they're not, but I just don't know when they're going to have them for me to tell you, unfortunately. Overall, I think it's a nice machine. I think it's usable. I think it's a good package. I think it's going to get better over time. Some changes that I would make personally, if this was, you know, if I was asked or inquired, if I was asked, I would change the trigger to be more like the Mirka, a single trigger. I would remove the delay. When you pull this trigger, there is a delay for a second or two before it starts spinning. It's not really 2 seconds, it's maybe a half a second, something along those lines, but you definitely notice it when you're using it. I would make the trigger very, very similar to the Mirka, but still keep the trigger lock, which I think is 100% doable. I would maybe consider whether these vents actually need to be here, because I don't know if they do or don't, but it doesn't seem to serve much of a purpose the way that I hold it under most circumstances. And then, you know, explore whether or not this needs to spin when you let off the trigger. And I don't know if it's because there's some sort of clutch system in here or because the motor, normally brushless motors don't allow like a free spin when you let off the trigger. So it's kind of strange that this one does, but you know, I don't know exactly how it's happening. Maybe there's a clutch that's engaging when the motor spins fast enough and causing this to spin. And there's a decoupling effect where that one is more of a direct drive. I honestly don't know. But that's all that I have for today. I appreciate you coming by. I appreciate you watching. Overall, it is a very nice machine. I don't think you're going to be unhappy with it, especially if you've never used the Mirka. I think it's going to be a night and day difference from just about any other 3-inch machine that does exist out there. And you know, overall, you'll probably be very happy with it. I can't talk much about the longevity of it because I've only had it for, I don't know, a couple weeks. I've used it about a dozen times on and off camera. I think there's been 3 videos where I used it on camera, but I've, you know, played with it here at night for, you know, a couple of hours here and there just to mess around with it and see how it works. And I think that I can confidently stand behind the machine. But, you know, who knows if they'll start breaking or something will happen. They just haven't been out long enough for us to really have a good understanding of how reliable they're going to be. That being said, I've not heard of anybody having any problems with them. So I have every reason to expect that they won't, because ShineMate has historically been a pretty reliable brand. So that's all that I have for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you're having a great day.